Hello, and welcome to another weekly update. My camera's over here, it's not down here. How are you? I hope you had a good one. I hope you had a good week, whatever it is you've been doing. The sun is kind of out in the UK again. There's been so much rain, certainly in my part of the world. I think it rained like all of Saturday, so that was not very fun. But it came out a bit yesterday, so that's good. And it's beautiful today, which is a good day to be stuck inside, apparently. Anyway, let's not talk about the weather. Let's talk about all of the fun Microsoft 365 platform development stuff. Let's not even talk about the fun and games we had getting to this point of doing LinkedIn live stream. I'm so close to paying for something like a Restream or a StreamYard. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about a blog post that I did kind of right at the start of this week, which I did it on Monday, and it's all about what you can do as a developer and an organization to do with Copilot. Copilot is coming. We know Copilot is coming. We're all very excited that Copilot is coming. We don't really know when. We do know how much it's going to cost, but we might know when, which is something I'm going to talk about at the end of this, actually. But for now, what can you do as an organization? So if your company, if your IT manager, if your CEO, whoever it is asking you, hey, what are you supposed to do? Like, are we ready for Copilot? Are there things we're supposed to do? No, you're probably not ready for Copilot. Yes, there are definitely things you need to be doing. But then there's a sort of second angle to this, is as a developer, are you kind of thinking, am I ready for Copilot? Like what are we going to do here? What's it going to mean for the flow of how users get to their stuff, how users use our application? So many questions. So here is a blog post which hopefully helps some as a developer. And are you kind of thinking, am I ready for Copilot? First of all, what are we going to do here? And there's some stuff to do here. What's it going to mean for it's mostly to do with the way that Copilot works, right? How users use our application. This is kind of like so many questions. So here is a blog post which hopefully helps some as a developer. And are you kind of thinking, am I ready for Copilot? First thing in IT is magic. What are we going to do here? Is that quote about any sufficient stuff to do here? What's it going to mean for it's mostly to do with the way that we're a bit like that with how users use our application. This is kind of like so many questions. There's two sides to that. First, here is a blog post which hopefully helps some as a developer. And are you kind of thinking, am I ready for Copilot? First thing in IT is magic. What are we going to do here? Is that quote about any sufficient stuff to do here? It's mostly to do with the way that we're a bit like that with how users use our application. This is kind of like so many questions. There's two sides to that. First, here is a blog post which hopefully helps some as a developer. And just like kind of thinking, first thing in IT obviously what are we going to do here? Is that quote about any sufficient stuff to do here? It's mostly to do with the way fundamentally this how users use our application. This is kind of like so many questions. There's two sides to that. First, here is a blog post which hopefully just your organization. And just kind of thinking, obviously what are we going to do here? Is that quote about any sufficient stuff to do here? It's mostly to do with the way fundamentally this how users use our application. This is kind of like so many questions. There's two sides to that. Here is a blog post which hopefully just your organization. And just kind of thinking, obviously what are we going to do here? Is that quote about any sufficient stuff to do here? It's mostly to do with the way fundamentally like that. This how users use our application. And kind of like so many questions. There's two sides to that. Here is a blog post which hopefully just your organization. When Microsoft Delve came out as well, where oversharing became like a bit of a problem because there were files and folders where people technically had permission to see them because of bad permissions and overly, whatever the opposite of restrictive is, overly liberal permissions. But people never kind of found them because they were kind of tucked away somewhere. They weren't overtly shared. But the trouble is something like Delve, Microsoft Search, Copilot will find those because it finds them just as easily as it finds the stuff that's on your file share or in the places that you look every day. So it was surfacing this stuff. When Delve first came out, it was surfacing this stuff that people technically had access to, but they probably shouldn't have. And that made a lot of IT admins quite wary. And I'm worried we're going to see the same thing with Copilot. So a really good opportunity right now to go and check things like permissions. Go and check that stuff out. Go and have a look at Microsoft Syntex. Go and have a look at Microsoft Purview. Both of those can help you here by identifying files that are really wildly shared that maybe shouldn't be, and also identifying files that contain sensitive data, classified content, stuff like that. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is just making sure that your data hygiene is good in terms of stuff is well categorized, stuff is well tagged, people are well tagged, they've got good job titles and departments. If you're using Viva Topics, or you're even trying Viva Topics out, or you've kicked the tires on Viva Topics, or you're paying for Viva Topics and not really using it, all of those are really good reasons to go back there and make sure that list of topics is really well updated, because it's that exact same thing that will put you in a really good place for Copilot. The other thing to watch out for, or look out for, sorry, not watch out for, or you've kicked the tires on Viva Topics, or you're paying for Viva Topics and not really using it, all of those are really good reasons coming to, we know it's going to be available, go back there and make sure that list 365 is really well updated. Three customers, it's going to provide some visibility of your data. It's basically going to show the workings of a Copilot. So hopefully it will help. The other thing to watch out for, or look out for, sorry, not watch out for, look out for Viva Topics, or you're paying for Viva Topics and not really using it, all of those are really good reasons coming to, so that's one part of it, go back part of it and make sure that part of it is looking at your third-party data, and this is like going to provide some visibility of your data. It's basically going to show the work looking at your third-party data. Hopefully, the other thing to watch out for, or look out for, deciding whether it makes sense to use topics, or you're paying for Viva Topics and not using it. All of those are really good improving. So that's one part of it. Go back part of it. Another part of it is looking at your third-party data. This is like going to provide some visibility of your data. Basically, going to show the work looking at your third-party data. Hopefully, the other thing to watch out for, or look out for, deciding whether it makes sense to use Yeah, that's kind of a biggie for this week, I think, is, prepare for Copilot. Be ready for when Copilot comes. And like I say, at the end of this, we're going to talk a little bit about when Copilot might actually come. But let's talk about something else now. And that is, well, it's kind of the same thing, but is another blog post this week. And we've definitely had these blog posts before. There's a whole detail now about bringing your data into Microsoft 365 with connectors. The thing I was just talking about how you can take your third-party data and bring it into Copilot and bring it into Microsoft 365 with connectors. This is not just me saying this. The reason for showing you another blog post, not just my blog post on the subject that came out a couple of days after mine, is really to kind of hammer home this is where Microsoft really think it's worth spending some time thinking and looking. And so there's a blog post here about how you can bring your data into Microsoft 365 not just me saying this. So the reason for showing you another blog post, this is a Microsoft, not just my blog post on the subject that came out a couple of days after mine blog. It's really to kind of hammer home this is where Microsoft really goes through quite a lot of detail there around time thinking and looking. How you build a custom one. So there's a blog post here about how you can bring your data into Microsoft 365. Not just me saying this. The reason for showing you another blog post, not just my blog post on the subject that came out a couple of days after mine. Really, it's really to kind of hammer home. This is where Microsoft really goes through quite a lot of the team, I'd say, in the last couple of years. But suddenly they're looking like they're really important, and I think they're going to get an awful lot of attention over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. And so if you wanted a place to focus, I'd say this is a really good one, because this is going to be how third parties everywhere are suddenly looking, and if Copilot comes out and is a massive success in that it really revolutionizes how we do business, organizations everywhere are going to be wondering, okay, how do we get our data into this engine so that it comes out the other side? And otherwise we kind of risk being irrelevant. If our data is only useful because and when it shows up in Copilot, otherwise no one cares, that's going to be the race then to, who has the best connector, who has the fastest connector, whatever else it is, whose connector indexes the best data and all that sort of stuff. So plenty of fun stuff there, but that starts with understanding really how connectors work and building your own. And that blog post is a great place to start for all of that. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Well, let's shift gears away from Copilot completely for a minute and talk about Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft Graph Beta API, which changes all the time, as we know. It kind of feels like Microsoft are getting a little bit more aggressive about breaking stuff on the beta endpoint. Maybe that is kind of Copilot influenced in the kind of stuff is having to move quite quickly at the moment at Microsoft. Probably slightly faster than it might have before, and maybe slightly faster than people would have wanted it to. And that means some stuff breaks sometimes. And we've got another breaking change. And I'm only saying that because it feels like I've been talking about breaking changes more often recently. I don't really have sort of evidence for that, but yeah. So we've got another breaking change, and this time it's to do with the profile card. There's some properties on the profile card and a new set of permissions. So if you're using and I'm only saying that because it feels like I've been talking about breaking changes more often recently from the beta endpoint. I don't really have sort of evidence which is graph.microsoft.com/beta/organization. We've got another breaking change, and this time it's to do with the profile card properties. If you're using the profile card and a new set of permissions, changed. So if you're using the whole API, and I'm only saying that because it feels like custom profile, the old API path is going to stop working, which is graph.beta/organization. This time and settings, we had 6 days notice of this. But I mean, that is how it works with the change. So if you're using the whole API, I'm only saying that because it feels like custom profile, the old API path. There's lots of detail here about exactly which is graph.beta/organization. So if you're using profile cards on the beta endpoint and you're setting custom properties, then just be aware that those APIs have changed and will need to be updated from today. Okay, it's another month, so there's a whole bunch of new stuff coming for Azure Communication Services, and they do a monthly update blog post, which is helpful just to understand all the new stuff. The biggest thing I think is there's a public preview of something called Job Router. Job Router is a really nice abstraction over the kind of idea where you've got a bunch of work and you need to farm it out to a bunch of other listeners. So those might be, let's say, a call center experience where you've got agents and you've got incoming calls, and you need to kind of divvy them out either on a kind of round robin basis or on a skills-based skills-based sort of system. But this is all just stuff you could write yourself. It's just with Job Router, they've nicely abstracted it into something that works well with Azure Communication Services, which is cool. It uses priority or label-based routing. It's got skill-based routing as well if you need. Yeah, it's nice. It's got a whole bunch of stuff there. I don't think I've seen any information on pricing because that's the only problem with these abstractions. Like, yes, you could build it yourself, and then you pay some of the Azure cost of setting up, however you do it, event streams probably, and then you pay there. I haven't seen anything particular on pricing yet. It is still in preview though, so it's likely to be free during the preview period. We'll just have to keep an eye out on whether it's priced at all or whether it's just going to be Azure. You just consume your Azure usage for using it. There's a couple of other things as well. Oh, sorry, let me show you the post I'm looking at on pricing yet of how it is still in preview though, so it's likely to be free during the preview period. We'll just have to keep an eye out on kind of classic, whether it's priced at all or whether It's just going to be Azure system. And yeah, like I say, there's nothing particularly special about it, except that it works well with ACS. There's a couple of other things as well, and it's built in the same thing, so it's all part of how it's still in preview though, so it's likely to be free rather than you having preview period. We'll just have to keep an eye out. There is also some new stuff, whether it's price transfer numbers, and it's classic job releases. So if that sounds interesting, like I say, be aware that it's special about it, except that it works well with ACS. A couple of other things as well, and it's built in. All right. Last thing I want to tell you about is, so I mentioned this right at the beginning a few times when we were talking about Copilot, and that is the release date for Microsoft 365 Copilot. And we don't know this for sure. What we do know is the pricing. We know, what else do we know? We know that it's in preview. There's a paid preview process. And yeah, so the thing that changed was there was an investor call on July 25th. That was Microsoft's Q4 earnings release, and during that earnings call, there was a Q&A session, and one of those questions talked a little bit about Copilot, and specifically, so this is an investor call, right? So they don't really care about the technology, and they don't even particularly care about the release date. What they care about is when they can start seeing revenue for Copilot. And so that's what the question was about, is, when can we start seeing revenue for this Copilot stuff? Now, of course, that is quite well linked to the release date. So in answer to this, Amy Hood, who Microsoft CFO, she said, blah, blah, blah. She went through the process first of talking about what needs to happen next. So talked about, we've done pricing, then we'll go through the paid preview process, then we'll announce the GA date, then we'll get to the GA date, then we'll be able to start selling it, and at that point we'll be able to start recognizing the revenue. And then she said this, and that is why I continue to say that I'm just as excited as everybody else about this, and it should be more H2 weighted. So H2, second half of the year, and this is Microsoft's fiscal year we're talking about. So that runs from July 1st. So when she says H2, she means the calendar period from the 1st of January next year to kind of the end of June. So what she's saying is you should expect revenue from Copilot to be more weighted to that period of time, January to June. How I interpret that as is, okay, if you expect most, all of your revenue to happen in that period, then your GA date needs to be pretty close to the start of that, or a bit before it, or maybe a little bit after it. So that's why I think the GA date is coming up soon. I think it's going to have to happen probably before 1st of January if you want to recognize revenue more in H2. You could go a little bit later perhaps, but it's you've only got 6 months, right? So anyway, we've got Microsoft Ignite coming up in November. I think that's a good chance for possible announcements. If not, I think at some point in January, maybe at a dedicated event. When I put this on Twitter actually, and somebody whose name I've forgotten, but somebody very sensible, because I saw a pitch maybe January, a dedicated event, maybe January 1st. And they said, well, Microsoft shuts down over Christmas. Forget January 1st. And that's true. Like I only put it in because it's like the start of H2. So that was the only reason for putting it in. Anyway, there is build as well, which tends to be May kind of time. And I feel like that's a little bit late for any rev rec in H2, but we'll see. But these are just my guesses. And to be honest, it's not really worth getting hung up on them. We know ballpark when it's coming. We know it's not going to be like a year from now. We know it's going to be before then. And so actually coming back to what I started talking about, making sure you're ready for this stuff is super important. But if you did want a blog post, kind of just going through ballpark when it's coming, what I thought we know it's not going to be like a year from now. Pick holes in my working before then, and so actually what I took out of the earnings I started talking about, and let me know. But yeah, that's the blog post I did. All right, that is everything from me this week. Kind of a long one, sorry about that, but there's lots going on, and I hope you have a good one, whatever it is you're doing this week, and I will speak to you again next time.